The morning I turned 69, I sat alone at a table set for 3 and nobody came. My name is Walter Hendricks. I built a roofing and construction company out of nothing but a rusted pickup truck and $400 I'd saved working double shifts at a lumberyard in Tulsa. I raised a son I would have walked through fire for. And I loved a woman named Eleanor for 38 years, right up until the cancer took her and left me alone in a house still full of her handwriting on recipe cards. This isn't a story about a bitter old man. I want to say that clearly before I go any further. What I felt on the night my son called me 2 weeks before my 69th birthday wasn't bitterness. Bitterness is what happens when a man swallows his pain and lets it rot inside him. What I felt was something colder, cleaner. Clarity. "Dad," my son Michael said, and even the way he said that one word told me everything. Flat, rehearsed, like he'd practiced it in the car. "I think it's time we had an honest conversation." I was standing in my kitchen in Tulsa. The pot roast was on the stove. Eleanor's recipe, the one Michael used to beg for every Sunday growing up. I had 3 plates out, 3 chairs pulled from the table the way I always did. The way Eleanor and I used to sit with him between us. "You owe Diane's parents an apology," Michael said. "His wife's family, the Prestons, for how you acted at Thanksgiving. Diane and I have talked about it, Dad, and honestly, we feel like you make things difficult, like you don't even try." I looked at the 3 plates. I thought about the empty chairs. "So here's where we're at," he continued, and I could hear his wife's voice somewhere behind him, coaching him without words. "You apologize sincerely. Not the way you do it where you say the words, but your face says something else. Or maybe it's time you figure out how to be on your own." The kitchen went very quiet after that. I want you to hold on to that moment, because everything I'm about to tell you starts right there. My son giving his father 2 choices over the phone, like a man reading terms off a contract. What Michael didn't know, what none of them knew, was that by the time he made that call, I had already been paying attention for a long, long time. Not because I'm a man who plans for betrayal, because I'm a man who notices when a door stops closing, right? Within 3 weeks of that phone call, I had done things that would turn my son's face the color of old ash. I had booked a one-way ticket. I had made certain every door he assumed was open to him was, in fact, closed quietly, legally, permanently. And then I disappeared, not in anger, efficiently, the way I've always done everything. But you can't understand where this ends without understanding where it began, and that begins 40 years ago. With $400, a broken-down truck, and a name I was determined to make mean something in this city. I started Hendricks Roofing & Sons with $400, a second-hand Chevy with 200,000 miles on it, and a name borrowed from a future that hadn't happened yet. The & Sons part, I put that in before Michael was even born. Eleanor thought that was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. "Walter Hendricks," she said, laughing so hard she nearly spilled her coffee. "You haven't even got the son yet and you're already putting him to work." "I'm thinking ahead," I told her. She shook her head, grinning, straightening my collar the way she did when her hands needed something to do. "You are the most stubborn, most impossible man I have ever met. I mean that as a compliment." That was 1986. I was 29, living on the east side of Tulsa, and Eleanor was 4 months pregnant. I'd spent 6 years working another man's crew, long enough to know how I wanted to run my own. Our first job was a roof repair in a neighborhood called Brookline. 3 days of work, $260 after materials. I came home Friday with the check in my pocket and held it up without a word. Eleanor turned from the stove, saw it, and her eyes went bright. "Hendricks & Sons," I said. She cried and laughed at once, wiping her face with a towel and put both arms around me. Michael was born that October at St. Francis Hospital. I held him in the delivery room and my hands that had swung hammers in July heat, shook so bad the nurse asked if I was all right. "Fine," I said. I wasn't. I was undone completely in the best way. "I built a company for him," I told Eleanor, "before he was even here. He'll know that too someday," she said. The years weren't dramatic, but they were good. I worked 6 days a week for a decade. I missed things, his 3rd grade play, most little league games. I made the last 2 innings of one, and caught the look on his face when he spotted me in the stands. "Did you see my hit?" he asked, cap sideways. "I did," I lied. But I'd seen his face when he saw me. That was enough. When Michael was 17, I sold a rental property to cover his college deposit before he even asked. Eleanor had the paperwork ready. "You didn't have to," she said. "Yes, I did." She studied me the way she did sometimes. "He doesn't need a company or a fund to know you love him. He just needs you to show up." "I show up." "I know, just don't let the company be the whole of you." She smiled the slow, sure smile she saved for things she knew I was still learning. "I intend to be around a good while yet," she said. She was wrong about that. But that evening, her hand over mine, his acceptance letter on the fridge, I was, by every measure, a happy man. That happiness had an expiration date I couldn't see coming. Eleanor Hendricks passed on a Tuesday in October, 12 minutes past 3 in the afternoon. Her hand in mine. She'd been sick 14 months. The kind of sick that settles in slowly, like a house shifting on its foundation. 3 weeks before the end, her voice thin but her eyes still sharp, she pulled me close. "Take care of Michael," she said. "But don't disappear into it. Don't make yourself so small. There's nothing left of you by the time you need yourself. Promise me you'll take care of him, and promise me you'll take care of you too." "I promise," I said. I kept the first half. The second half I struggled with. Michael and his wife Diane drove down that evening. He held on to me in the hallway. Really held on, and I thought, at least we have each other. That first year he called every Sunday. The second year every other Sunday, then once a month. I told myself he was busy building his life. I understood, I did. It was around then I properly met my neighbor, Carol Ann Whitfield. Her husband had passed 2 years before Eleanor. She was sharp-tongued in the kindest way, and had a habit of showing up on weekend mornings with 2 cups of coffee already made, as if she'd simply decided we were going to be friends and gave me no say in it. "You look like you haven't talked to a human being in 4 days," she said the first time. 3, I said. "Close enough, sit." One morning, maybe 6 months into our routine, she looked at me sideways. "Walter, are you lonely?" "Loneliness is a choice," I said. "That's either very wise or very stubborn. With you, I can't tell which. Probably both." She laughed, a real laugh, and the sound of it hit somewhere I hadn't expected. Not grief exactly, something adjacent to it. By the fall, Michael and Diane's visits had thinned to twice a year if the calendar cooperated. A card in January, a text on Thanksgiving. I had adjusted to it the way you adjust to a bad knee. I was not angry yet, but something had started shifting quietly, the way important things always do. I had almost convinced myself Christmas at the Prestons' house would be fine. Diane's parents, Richard and Linda Preston, lived in a part of Tulsa with old money and older trees. I wore the navy jacket Michael had given me the year before. I wanted him to see me in it. I wanted him to know I'd kept it. I arrived early, parked on the street, and walked up to the door. It hadn't latched all the way, a half-inch gap. Through it, I heard Linda Preston's voice, warm and polished. "I just hope he doesn't make it into a whole thing again like Thanksgiving." I stood there in the cold with my hand raised toward the doorbell, and I listened. "He means well," Richard Preston said, low and agreeable. "Michael married well despite his background. But that father of his, I worry he'll be a fixture we can't remove. Gets so defensive about that little roofing business." "Diane doesn't say anything," Linda continued, "because she's gracious. But I see it on her face every time he starts in about the company. Embarrassing for Michael especially." I lowered my hand slowly. My heart didn't race. What I felt was colder than that, cleaner. Certainty. I had suspected this was the water Michael and Diane swam in. Now I knew for sure. I straightened my jacket and rang the bell. Linda answered in burgundy, silver hair swept back. A smile arranged with the precision of a woman arranging smiles since before. "Michael was born. Walter, you made it. Come in, it's freezing." 20 minutes into dinner, Linda reached for the bread basket. "Michael tells us the roofing business is still going strong. Such steady demand, people always need things fixed. We moved into commercial contracts 15 years ago," I said. 31 properties. 9 on payroll. Of course, she waved a hand, already pivoting to Richard's college roommate. Michael, cutting his chicken, said nothing. He'd heard every word. Talk turned to retirement, a couple who'd moved to Florida. "There's something so freeing about letting go," Linda said, angled at me. "The next generation needs room to grow without the older generation hovering." "I'm not much of a hoverer," I said. Never had the patience for it. With dessert, she told a story about a father who'd let his children convince him to give up his business. "It takes self-awareness," she said, looking straight at me, "to recognize when holding on becomes a burden. Don't you think, Walter? The table waited. I felt Michael's silence pressing down its whole length. The people who love you most, I said, are usually the last ones to call you a burden. Richard cleared his throat and mentioned the pie. The moment covered over, unresolved. I looked at my son once more, jaw tight, knuckles white on his fork. He'd heard everything. He said nothing in my direction. That was the answer I'd come for. I drove home through dark Tulsa streets, past the block where Hendricks & Sons built its first commercial property in 1994. Still standing, still solid. Something quiet settled into my chest like concrete finding its level. Not anger, clarity. At home I fed the cat, made coffee I didn't want, and looked at Eleanor's calendar. My birthday circled in red with a small heart beside it. Then I called an old friend, Pastor Ray Delgado. He picked up on the second ring. "Walter, it's late. I need to get some things in order," I said. "Legal things. Wanted someone to know first." "Does this have to do with Michael?" Ray asked. "It has to do with everything, Ray. The house, the company, all of it. I've been watching something for a long time, and tonight I got my answer. You've already thought this through." 2 years, I said. Tonight I just finished the thought. I need a good attorney. Someone thorough. Call Diane Ferris, he said. She won't miss anything. I called her the next morning and brought a legal pad with 8 items. Numbered clear, the way I used to write project specs. She read it without speaking for a full minute. "How long have you been thinking about this?" 2 years for some of it. 2 weeks for the rest.
"Tell me why," she said.
"Not for the paperwork, because I want to understand what I'm working with." I told her about the wedding reception 3 years back. Standing near the bar, overhearing Richard Preston tell a golf buddy, Michael married into our circle well. That roofing inheritance of his should set them up nicely. He called it an inheritance, I said. While I was standing 20 feet away, still running the company, still working every day, something behind her eyes sharpened. The company was never going to be an inheritance, I said. It was going to be earned. After that night, I restructured it. Now I'm protecting the rest. We went through the list. My will revised. My assets moving into a charitable trust I'd quietly set up. The company, already restructured with Ray and an outside trustee. The house to be handled separately. And one more thing. I want a small fund, I said. Accessible at 18. No conditions. Diane's pregnant. Nobody's told me, but I noticed at Thanksgiving. I want something there for that child regardless of everything else. She wrote it down without a word. By the time I left her office, the legal machinery was moving. I called my realtor, Gary Osei, from the garage. "I'm ready," I said. "Off market, quick close." I had 12 days until my birthday. The house question was in motion. The will was being redrawn. All that remained was January the 18th and whatever my son chose to do with it. I drove home slower than usual, not because I was afraid of what was coming, because for the first time since Eleanor died, I felt entirely certain of my own next step. And certainty, it turns out, is its own kind of peace. 2 days later, Carol Ann showed up with coffee and found me pulling weeds in the cold. "You're planting nothing in January," she said. "The weeds don't know what month it is." She sat with me a long while, not asking about Michael, not asking about Christmas, just present, and I was more grateful for that than I knew how to say out loud. January 18th, my birthday, came in cold and gray. I made coffee and stood at the window watching sparrows fight over an empty feeder I'd forgotten to fill. Then I started cooking. Pot roast first, Eleanor's recipe, low and slow. Mashed potatoes with real butter. Green bean casserole, because Michael had loved it since he was 9 and never stopped asking for it. I set the table for 3. Ironed the white tablecloth Eleanor saved for holidays. Folded the napkins. Polished 2 extra wine glasses even though I don't drink, because the table looked incomplete without them. At 10, I drove to Hartley's Bakery downtown for the cake I'd ordered days earlier. "Chocolate layer, vanilla frosting," the young woman at the counter said. "Same as last year, Mr. Hendricks." My hand paused over my wallet. "Same as last year," I said. Though she had no way of knowing, last year's cake sat untouched 4 hours before. Carol Ann came over. By noon, no message from Michael. By 4, nothing. I ate a bowl of soup standing at the counter because the roast needed another hour. At 5, I served myself a plate and sat down at my own place. Not one of the extra chairs, and ate alone. At 7, there was a knock. Carol Ann stood on the porch with, Yellow tulips she'd clearly driven somewhere in January to find. "Happy birthday, Walter," she said. Her eyes moved to the 3-chair table, the untouched wine glasses, and something crossed her face she didn't try to hide. "The pot roast is excellent," I said. "Are you hungry?" "Absolutely," she said and hung up her coat. We ate together, the two of us at one end of the table, the extra setting still in its place, unmentioned. She talked about her sister's new house, a book she couldn't stop reading even though it infuriated her. I listened, and at some point my chest unclenched without my noticing. At 8:47 my phone buzzed. Michael, I picked up. "Dad," he said, flat, composed, a man reading from a script he'd rehearsed. "I've been thinking about Christmas. Diane and I feel like you've been difficult, like you're not really trying." I said nothing. Let him finish. "So here's where we're at. You apologized to Richard and Linda sincerely, or maybe it's time you figured out how to be on your own." The kitchen went very quiet. Carol Ann was watching me, fork down, jaw tight, working hard not to say something. "I hear you, Michael," I said, my voice steady. "I appreciate the clarity." I ended the call. After Carol Ann left, I stood at the mantel a long time, looking at a photo of the three of us at a lake. Michael 12, Eleanor laughing at something off camera. Then I called Ray Delgado. "I'm ready, Ray," I said. "I need you to do 4 things." "Go ahead," Ray said. "Call Diane Ferris first thing tomorrow. Tell her we're moving on the full list, everything finished before month's end." "Done." "Call Gary Ossie after that. He's got a buyer for the house. I want you as the point of contact. I don't want to be reachable for any of it." "Understood. Keep a copy of everything. Every document, every transfer. When Michael comes looking for answers, and he will, I want him able to get them from someone he trusts." Ray was quiet a moment. "You said 4 things. The 4th, don't tell him where I am. Not until I say so. Maybe not ever." "Can you do that, Ray?" "All 4? "Yes," he said after a pause that carried real weight. "I can do that." "Are you all right, Walter?" I looked at the kitchen, the roast pan still on the stove, the untouched cake still boxed on the counter. "I'm better than I've been in a long time," I said. And I meant it. After we hung up, I opened the cake box. 69 candles, all of them, no symbolic number. I pressed each into the frosting, struck a match, lit them. The kitchen filled with warm, unsteady light. I retrieved Eleanor's wedding photograph from the mantel, propped my phone against the cookbook stand, pressed record and sat down. "Eleanor," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "You should see this. Our boy didn't come." I told her about the pot roast, that it came out right. I told her there's a point. Where taking care of someone becomes teaching them they can take you for granted, and I'd crossed that line a long time ago. "I'm not angry," I said to the camera. "I want whoever sees this to understand that. I'm clear. Those are 2 different things." I took her wedding ring from my shirt pocket, set it beside the photo in the candlelight. Then I leaned forward and blew out every flame in one long breath. I saved the video to a small drive and placed it in an old wooden box of Eleanor's, along with the ring and the lake photograph. I set the box dead center on the dining table, impossible to miss. Then I washed every dish, packed 1 duffel bag, and went to bed at 11:40. I had a flight to book and a life to finish dismantling. For the first time in longer than I could remember, fear wasn't waiting for me on the other side of sleep. Ray called at 6:14 the next morning. "Diane filed everything last night. Gary's buyer signed the agreement at 10:30. "Walter, it's done." My throat tightened so fast it scared me. 40 years of building something, and it came down to a phone call at dawn with a man I used to work construction beside. "You okay?" Ray asked. "Ask me in an hour," I said. I took the family portrait down from the fireplace and replaced it with our 1981 wedding photo, just Eleanor and me, young and certain, outside the church. Carol Ann came by with coffee, saw the empty space, and pressed her lips white. "When?" "Tomorrow morning." "The box stays on the table," I said, "so whoever walks in next can't miss it." She touched the brass latch gently. "The USB's inside." Eleanor's ring. "The lake photo?" She made a low sound and turned to the window, shoulders moving. "I'm not leaving because I'm broken," I told her. "I'm leaving because I finally know what I'm worth." She laughed through tears. "You impossible man." I left the next morning, slid the realtor's key under the mat, and took one last look at the shutters I'd painted the summer. Michael turned 13, the oak Eleanor planted as a sapling, now taller than the roof. Ray drove me to the airport, gospel radio low on the dial. At the departures curb, I texted Michael one line before boarding. I found the third option. I hope one day you find yours, Dad. I sent it, and 30 seconds later his name lit up my screen. My chest took one hard thud. I didn't answer. He's going to be angry, Ray said, then scared when he finds the accounts. Then maybe he'll think about what kind of man he wants to be. I flew to Portland, then drove north to a small coastal town in Maine. 10 quiet days passed. A quiet I hadn't understood until I lived inside it. Then Carol Ann called. Michael went to the office yesterday, she said. Then the bank. The account's nearly empty. He didn't sound angry, Walter. He sounded like a man who reached for something that's always been there and found it gone. Where is he now? Driving to the house on Maple Crest. I knew what he'd find there. I'd prepared for it the way you prepare for a storm, carefully, completely. Understanding preparation doesn't make it hurt less when it lands. 3 days later, she called again. He went inside. The new owners let him in. He went straight to the fireplace like he knew what to look for. Found the wedding photo. Then he found the box on the table. I closed my eyes. He took out the lake photograph first, she said. Pressed it against his chest and looked at the ceiling. Then he found the ring. Then he asked to borrow a laptop and watched the video. Tell me exactly, I said.
He held together until you said our boy didn't come.
Walter, it was the real kind of crying. I put my arms around him and he just fell apart. I stood at my window looking at the Atlantic, gray and constant, and thought about my son, standing in a stranger's kitchen, with a wooden box in his lap. He heard the promise too, Carol Ann said quietly. Good, I said, my voice rough. That's good. Ray called a few days later, the only call he made in all those months, which told me before he spoke that what he had to say wasn't something for a text message. He came to Diane Ferris first, Ray said. Then to me. Tell me how the attorney handled it. Professionally. Laid it out clean. The will, the full estate to the foundation, nothing to Michael. She handed him the note you left. He read it twice, set it down carefully, and sat without speaking a long while. I knew the note by heart. 3 drafts, each shorter than the last, until only the truest sentence remained. For the fathers who weren't as lucky as I was, at least I had someone to lose. The company's never carried his name on any ownership document, Ray said. She didn't explain why. He didn't ask. Some part of him already knew. And the trust for the child? Active, no conditions. He went very still when he heard that. He came to you after. He did, Ray said. Asked if I'd helped you plan it. I told him yes. Asked why I hadn't warned him instead. I told him because in 11 years he never once asked his father how he was doing in a way that required a real answer. Some questions, if you don't ask them, stop being available. The line went quiet on my end. He sat in his car 15 minutes after he left, Ray said. Didn't make a call. Didn't look at his phone. Walter, your son is beginning to grieve you while you're still alive. The words moved through me clean and cold. That's a strange thing to hear, I said. Strange, Ray agreed. Not a bad thing. By spring, Ray told me, Michael had hired a private investigator out of Tulsa. I wasn't surprised. I'd counted on it, the one move always available to him. What I'd also done quietly before boarding that flight was plan for it. The investigator traced me to the first coastal town within weeks. I left before he did, further up the coast, to a smaller place nobody in Tulsa would recognize. I learned the tides, the fog that sat in the pines till noon, the woman who ran the bakery, Nora, with a laugh like a screen door in summer. I was learning to be a person again, not just a function. Ray called on a Tuesday morning in August. Something in his voice tightened my hand around the mug before he even spoke. Diane had the baby, he said. 5 weeks early. Both of them home and healthy. Boy or girl? Boy, they named him James Walter Hendricks. I set the mug down and gripped the porch railing. My father's name, mine, given to a boy stubborn enough to arrive early and survive it. He's a good father, Ray said. Present, careful. Looks at that baby the way you used to look at him. I sat on the porch step a long time after that, the tide moving below, and I knew it was time to write the letter. I woke at 6:15, 70 years old, in that soft space between sleep and waking, hearing water against rocks before I even remembered where I was. The letter had sat finished on the desk since a November evening. The first real cold off the water. I'd promised myself I'd send it on Michael's birthday, giving him 5 months with his son first. 5 months to be a father before facing what kind of son he'd been. I read it one last time. Michael, you gave me 2 choices. I found a third. The ring stays with you. The photo stays with you. Everything I built with these 2 hands, the part that matters is already inside you, whether you claim it or not. Tell James about his grandmother. Tell him she planted an oak from a sapling and it grew taller than the house. That's all I've got, son. The rest is yours to figure out, Dad. I put on my coat and walked to the post office along the water. Nora waved from her window. The postmistress weighed the envelope, stamped it, dropped it in the bin. I watched it disappear. Everything since that January night, the will, the trust, the memory box, the flight north, moved toward this one envelope, headed for a man in Tulsa still learning who he wanted to be. I don't know what Michael will do with it. That's his to figure out now. The way everything worth having has to be. Back at the cottage, I sat by the window with a second cup of coffee. The water moving steady and honest below entirely itself. I looked down at my ring, worn smooth since 1981, still there. Well, I said out loud to the water, to Eleanor, to the room. Here we are. Every choice that year, the party, the midnight call, the wooden box, the one-way ticket, this letter, I made with both hands, imperfectly, deliberately, knowing nothing was guaranteed. If there's anything I want you to take from Walter Hendricks' story, it's this. Don't spend years setting a table for people who've quietly stopped intending to show up. The ones who deserve a seat will pull up their own chair. You won't have to beg them to come. Value yourself before the world teaches you the lesson, because the world's version always costs more. I'm not a perfect man. I made mistakes I can't undo and peace with a few I can. That's the most any of us can honestly manage. That's the whole of it, my friends. Thank you for staying with Walter Hendricks all the way to the end. If this story stayed with you, if you've ever set that table and waited, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Like this video. Subscribe if you'd like more stories like this one, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. It costs you nothing and it might mean everything to them. This has been the Revenge Hub. See you in the next one.